Hey everybody, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Doing something a little different today. We're not going to be doing anything too serious, nothing with a lot of intellectual depth, probably. This one is just kind of a cozy, hangout stream. We're just enjoying, Christmas yesterday, obviously, and just enjoying families and everything. And just wanted to get people together and talk a little bit about the holiday and what it means to everybody, some of their favorite parts. So we're not going to be probably breaking any important intellectual ground, but really appreciate everybody joining us to just hang out, have a good time, and just kind of reflect on the year. We're probably going to have some more people joining here later, but my guests right now are the Prudentialist, Furious Pertinax, and of course, American Ostracon. Thanks everybody for coming on. And let's go ahead and go around a little bit, I guess, to just get started. I know this is a slightly different holiday for everybody, but how was your holiday yesterday? How was your Christmas yesterday, Prudentialist?
It was good. Both of my brothers managed to come down. We're not all central and living together or close by, so it was nice to see everybody, and it was good. Our holiday plans kind of got thrown up into the air. I recently caught the ever so wonderful coof, so that threw out everything. But no, it was good. Everyone is here. We had a lovely time together. We had a ham. It was a good time.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, we did. We went ahead and did Christmas a little early. We did Christmas Eve for both sides of my family because of just crazy scheduling. Once everybody gets married and different siblings, and everybody's got to make multiple Christmas appearances. Getting all of that stuff lined up gets a little more difficult. So we did both sides of the family on Christmas Eve. That was really more of our Christmas, and then Christmas Day we took it easy. Now, Furious, I know things have been pretty crazy down there in Australia. How was it with lockdowns and everything with Christmas? Were you able to see family?
Yes. Fortunately, for those who followed conversations with AA and the Prudentialists, etc. I'm fortunate to I have family who live out of the cities, which makes me something of a minority nowadays in Australia. And in fact, we had the cars packed, and the day that we were leaving a city, we had because it was in Northern Territory, South Australia, Queensland, and WA, where we had mask mandates come down, I think, across 2 nights. So we essentially had the cars packed and drove out the city, and then just as we were leaving the concrete jungle behind, the mask mandates came down. So it was quite a relief to just to go out into a small, quaint town, a country area, and not have to worry about coof talk. Where we pulled into a what you call a gas station halfway on the trip, and 7 people in the room and no one wore a mask. And the one person did wear a mask was looked at with a raised eyebrow. So it was good to be around normal people for a change for Christmas.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that most of my family on both sides is relatively outside of the crazy. The only people we had wearing masks were, grandmother-in-law that was in her 80s. So nothing, someone who probably should be in that environment, and so.
And that's kind of understandable, I suppose.
Yeah,
If you
right.
think in an advanced age, yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I know some people. My buddy Geo over at Break the Rules, he was talking about how in Canada, he just didn't see anybody for more than an hour or two. So I'm glad you were able to.
Wow.
It's that stark of a difference then between the cities and kind of more of the hinterlands out there.
Absolutely. And the great thing was, yeah, like once we arrived where we were, my one of my aunties hosted like Christmas Eve dinner, and it was just a beautiful roast dinner, roast beef and what they call it, like a chicken and a turkey, whatever they call it. And then Christmas Day was because we've had some pretty crazy weather here. Has been sort of trying to remember the American numbers for conversion, but 40 degrees Celsius days here, so they've been quite hot. And just standing around the pool and having a barbecue, with your friends and your close family and relations, and a few red wines and cold beers, and if there's a couple of days to splurge, you do it over Christmas with your family, and you appreciate your time with your nearest and dearest. So we had that, and it was just a good cozy day. I can't complain, Auron.
Yeah, we had my wife's side of the family over at our house for Christmas Eve morning breakfast, and my father-in-law
Ooh,
got
nice.
to broke out the biscuits and gravy. So we did
Nice.
Christmas right here, Southern style. Bog,
Yes.
that's
Beautiful.
right. Yeah. So Bog Beef,
Beautiful
speaking
boys.
of the good old boys, is here, sir. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Did you have a good Christmas there? Were you able to meet up with everybody?
Yeah. It was good.
Excellent.
Short and to the point there, Bob.
He's a man of many words. That's what I like about Bog
Yes,
Beef.
it was
Yes.
good. Next question.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably like you guys. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's it's in Florida, so there's no masks or it's kind of like in Florida. It's like none of this stuff ever happened. A lot of people in Florida, they don't even appreciate that. They're like, huh? What are you talking about? Masks? Vaccine? Never heard of it.
Yeah, there's a real. It's surprising for some people down in the free states. They completely don't understand that it's an entirely different reality outside of places like Florida, and so oftentimes they don't even appreciate what's going on. They're like, oh, what do you mean? People locked in their house all year. Never seeing their family, not wearing masks. That or having to wear masks 24/7.
Yeah, people. There's this thing that happens whenever you do this, especially on Twitter. Because thank you, Mr. DeSantis, for doing that. Right, that's pretty awesome. Just really putting himself out there for that. People like this is a part of a plot to do something about Donald Trump. Well, what if it was? I don't know. It's still pretty cool that we get that. So I don't know what to do. That's not really my business. You know what I mean? I just think it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I grew up with my dad in the military, and so we moved around all the time. We moved every other year, most of the time when I was a kid. But we always came together at Christmas time, no matter where we were stationed. We were always back with my mom's side of the family on Christmas, and she's one of 7, and so we'd pack 50 some odd people from extended family into a double wide, and just everybody would be doing some kind of Southern cooking and contributing, and so it's just hard for me to imagine having a Christmas where half the family isn't showing up, and those that are don't want to stay for long, and everyone's wearing a mask. Like I'm glad I didn't have to experience that, because it just feels like it would be something that would cripple the holiday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, just to be silly here, we've completely forgotten about our Eastern Orthodox friends, because Santa has, it's not yet Christmas. It could be the 1st of January, or it could be the 7th of January. So
I think it's the 7th for us this year.
It is for the Russian Orthodox, but then if you're Greek Orthodox, Io Vasilis, he comes on the 1st of January and gives you useful gifts like pickaxes and rifles to fight off the Turks. So for our Greek Orthodox friends out there,
very wholesome Greek pill.
Yes. For our Greek Orthodox friends out there, I know Santa's not quite gotten there, and it hasn't quite been Christmas yet. So Santa, it has been Christmas. Sorry, it has been Christmas. Santa has yet to come.
Speaking of the Greek Orthodox, I don't know. Maybe there's maybe we could unite with the neocons around this. I was thinking about what's something we could do to maybe get the donors flowing in to the conservative movement. What if we did this? Okay, so the Israel and Palestine thing is kind of played out. I mean, it's just kind of tedious. What if we did everything we did there and just did it in Cyprus? So we may we're gonna take Cyprus back. You know what I'm saying?
So I worked for a Greek politician, and it's weird because you're in American politics, but out of nowhere, they'll start telling their constituents about the importance of Cyprus. And I know
Let's go.
nothing about this, like when I was working, I had no clue what they were going on about, but this is like a crucial, this is like the defense of Israel. Like this is a key key constituent issue that everyone wants to hear.
So Auron, was Nicosia the one indivisible capital of the Cypriot people?
I don't think they got quite that deep into solution. But it was certainly a lot more. It was brought up at every town hall meeting in a area that should in no way, shape, or form give a crap about Cyprus, and it's very, very odd.
The Megali idea is not dead; it's just resting.
Is this like the war of northern aggression with the South? Like, do you guys just have a whole different code?
Yeah, so the Megali idea was basically this movement in between. It was in between World War I and World War II, where there was like this a Greek expansionism.
In the aftermath of World War One. Yeah,
there we go. Yeah, and it did not work, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah, so Greeks became expansionists there, and it didn't work, unfortunately. But that life goes on.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, that area is heating up again because the Greeks made a defense deal bilaterally with the French. So you're going to have a bunch of French frigates support the Greek Navy over there. Cyprus, while at the same time Turkey is buying submarines from the Germans. So you're having a very European affair play out over Cyprus between Greece and Turkey, and by greater extent in France and Germany.
While the English have
the
military
Turkish economy
presence
is shitting itself. Yeah, and the Turkish economy is shitting itself at the moment.
I'm sorry, I turned Christmas weird.
Is this going to be the new Franz Ferdinand incident? Are we going to be talking about how World War III was triggered by Cyprus? Like, is this
I mean,
it's a miracle that hasn't happened yet.
It's amazing.
Auron, I've fought for worse causes. I'm down.
All right,
it's better than fighting in Afghanistan. At least I speak the language.
Daniel Robinson says Florida is the American Byzantium. That's probably true on a number of levels. So thank you for that. That's let's see. All right. So now that we touched on everybody's Chris, like I said, I just wanted to keep it casual, guys. So if this goes anywhere, don't worry about it. Like I just wanted to get everybody together and have a good time. But maybe start out with something obvious. Anybody got some? I guess I'll start first. Some classic Christmas movies that are required viewing in your house. Let's see. We've got many of the normal ones, of course. Charlie Brown Christmas was a big one growing up. A Christmas Story is just, I think, one of the better written movies of all time. I love that movie. Of course,
so help me God, Yellow Eyes.
Yes, worked in profanity the way Rembrandt worked in oils, or whatever that quote is. But yeah, that movie's great. The Star has become a big one. The little guy likes that one a lot. So that's a contemporary one we watch. White Christmas, which is amazing that has not been banned for one reason or another. And then, of course, I'm not going to get into the Die Hard debate, but we watch it every year, regardless. But what about you, Prudentialist? Any crucial holiday viewing?
Well, for me, I kind of went this year just pretty hard in on the movies. Like you, Die Hard is, I think, required Christmas viewing. I truly enjoy It's a Wonderful Life. I did watch Irving Berlin's White Christmas, and I think because it's Irving Berlin, it's not going to get canceled. And then just some other ones, like I truly enjoy Gremlins and then Jingle All the Way, because they play Arnold Schwarzenegger just acting like this maniacal monster trying to get Jake Lloyd an action figure doll just straight and nothing, and they just escalate it. I love it because they'll play the scene straight where Arnold Schwarzenegger is fighting a bunch of like ex-con mall Santas with Jim Belushi, and they rip it straight from Indiana Jones, where he has to fight a guy that's bigger and taller than him. It's but very
also
nice.
Throws the midget Santa across.
Oh yeah, he ducks, and the midget Santa gets punched, and he like flies 50 feet straight back, ignoring all laws of physics. It's just Kino.
No, and
Back-
that's an
Back when
amazing.
Sinbad was an actor.
Yeah, it's a really good performance by Sinbad too. Actually,
Oh yeah.
I really do miss him. Like he's an excellent second banana in a lot of those things, and he should have gotten more work, I think. But what about you, Ostracon? Any required
You
viewing
hit
there?
the big ones. I watched Krampus again for the first time in about 5 years, and I'd forgotten how good it was. Like, it's actually a pretty decent Christmas movie that's dark comedy, dark horror. But yeah, the biggest thing is just like the sound design. Like, I felt cold watching that movie, and it's actually pretty good. And I also kind of like it because everyone gives the gun nut uncle a hard time until shit hits the fan, and then everyone needs all his guns.
As is so
It's
often
just-
the case.
yeah, which is just kind of like, it's like, oh, he's weird, he's got guns. It's like, hey, you've got guns in a Humvee. Can we go do something and try and help rescue my daughter? It's like, yes, we can.
What about you, Bog? Any required viewing?
I just want to bring up Fat Man. I wonder if anybody else saw that. Mel Gibson.
I heard of it.
I'm
It
familiar
was
with
like
that one.
he's got like a CIA funded Christmas North Pole, like it's like part military base, part Santa Claus thing.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
very
know.
bizarre.
It was interesting. There were some huge lapses in casting, but we won't get into that. But Christmas Vacation, you know,
Watch that one this year. Yep.
meat and
Classic.
potatoes.
Yep. What about you, Furious? Any Christmas favorites?
Well, Prude did mention the Die Hard, which is obviously a bit of a gimme. And a lot of people overlook actually the fact that Die Hard 2 is also actually technically a Christmas movie because he gets stuck at the airport whilst trying to transit home. So I'd like to watch both the Die Hards back to back if I can.
And it has the immortal, or not so immortal, he died, but Fred Thompson is the bad guy in there. A lot of people forget
that's right.
that the United States senator and presidential candidate was a diehard bad guy.
Yes, that's right, indeed. And I also have a tradition with my my dad actually, because my dad doesn't really get a chance to watch a whole lot of movies. But my dad and I, over the sort of Christmas and New Year period, have a tradition of watching submarine movies. And I have a sibling who is highly anxious. Well, actually, we'll try and watch in some degree of order. So it'll be sort of Das Boot, U571, Crimson, Hunt for Red October, and Crimson Tide. We tend to watch like all of them, or at least three of them, if we get a chance. And I've got a sibling, one who's like highly anxious. She like hates claustrophobia, and she absolutely detests submarines. So my dad and I like intentionally have the remote, watch the movies, no woman's in the room, and it's just like father-son time, watching submarine movies. That's like the Christmas thing that we do.
Yeah, I usually watch It's a Wonderful Life, though I didn't see it this year. But it is that is one of my favorites. It's one of those that is just amazing due to how dark it is, but then how much hope it brings. That's one that I try to catch, but it's often every other year.
That one kind of gets like dismissed as fluff, but that's a really like dark movie in a lot of ways.
It's incredibly dark, actually.
Like,
yeah, no,
Jimmy
I don't know.
Stewart contemplating suicide, and like is about to kill himself, and then then the world that like gets left behind without him is this really horrible place with the world without him in it.
Well, it deals with a lot of difficult themes. Yeah, it deals with obviously him, the sacrifices he makes to hold together his community and his family, and how no one appreciates that, and what that means in the long run. And I think there's there's a lot to that movie. And obviously it was a flop early on, so it's one of those things that people, it's got some cornball moments, and it's in black and white, and so people treat it like it's just some old cheesy 40s 50s movie, but it's really not.
Actually, one thing worth mentioning too, because obviously in Australia, being Southern Hemisphere, we don't have a white Christmas. We have a hot, a dry one. But for a lot of people who live in the Southern Hemisphere, we sort of like that sort of Home Alone 1 and 2 mindset of how Christmas is portrayed, or like, the Griswold National Lampoon sort of portrayal of Christmas. Like those movies kind of have a resonance for us as well. 'Cause, we are at diametric climatic opposites to, the American, and the way like the American, you guys there you have such an emphasis on like that Thanksgiving and then later Christmas period and how it sort of interacts with winter and snow. For those of us who don't live in the Northern Hemisphere, it does sort of have a resonance for us. That I suppose that is how the Europeans have traditionally celebrated Christmas over, centuries as well, to some degree. And, this sort of real clean cut, shall I say, sort of Anglo-WASP way of portraying Christmas as well, I think deserves a mention.
Yeah, no, it's definitely because I've lived in the Southeast, pretty much my whole life. And so for me, it usually is a green Christmas. So one of the first times I saw snow was when it was in Alabama, if it gives you an idea of how often I've seen snow. And so, yeah, I rarely have a white Christmas too, but you're right that's something that a lot of Americans take for granted, that kind of continuity of the seasons and the culture, but you wouldn't get necessarily in a place like Australia.
No, certainly not. And another way, actually, someone just mentioned in chat to Uncle Buck. Yes, because he thought patrols the daughter, so that's a worthy mention as well.
I'd also like to give a honorable mention to the Mystery Science Theater Santa Claus, which is one of their greatest episodes.
Santa Claus versus the Martians, I believe.
No. Well, they've done a couple, but the best one is
Santa Claus and the Ice Cream
him
Bunny
versus Satan. He
He
battles
Satan
for the soul of a 7-year-old Mexican girl.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And it's just so outrageous and insane. And just some scenes that are just completely bewildering. But I truly love that thing and can watch it endlessly. It's one of my favorite Mystery Science things, as well as Christmas time.
Yeah, that movie's a fever dream with the with the giant eyeball telescope and
and they go around to all the different nations of the world, and it's just
gets bad.
Boy.
It's bad.
The portrayal of all the different it's like It's a Small World gets significantly more racist and out of touch. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's what Mexican people in 1950s thought of the world, and it's epic.
Well, and Oriental means Arab, so so it's from the Orient, and it's a bunch of kids in Muslim garb.
It's an interesting. It's a funny movie with the commentary.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well,
before we take off?
Sure.
Man, it's been a minute since I just came to my mind. I've got to see Beavis and Butthead do Christmas again.
Oh man, I forgot that existed.
Yeah, isn't that like Butthead isn't born and Beavis is so Beavis becomes like a straight normal guy. Anyways, I've got to see that flick again.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I saw periphery, because it was, I was like 8 or 9 years old when that stuff got popular, and so like I wasn't really allowed to watch it, but I kind of saw some of it in friends' houses and stuff. So I'm not completely plugged into Mike Judge's earlier work. I didn't really appreciate him until we got to the King of the Hill days.
Mike Judge is interesting because he's clearly has sympathies with reactionary ideas, and the left doesn't 100% trust him, and I think that's about like where to put him, because like if you look at like his sort of sort of class background in life, he's someone who should be born into the left, but he's kind of bored by it, you know what I mean? And so there's a lot of interesting stuff he comes up with.
Yeah, if you watch King of the Hill, in the first 2 seasons, or like season and a half, Mike Judge is making fun of rednecks. And then for the rest of the King of the Hill, rednecks are making fun of liberals. So you can definitely watch that transition as the show kind of develops.
Yeah, he's absolutely not like a redneck, reactionary, right wing. Like, his... I think like both of his parents were like PhDs or something and globetrotting, all this stuff. But you can tell, and this is a lot of the great media pastimes was sort of made by people like this. That he realizes how boring and stupid and ham-fisted like left-wing media is now.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like Poe stopped by. Merry Christmas, Poe. Good seeing you. Yeah, no, if you get back into some of the Christmas movies of childhood, of course, yeah, you've got Home Alone's. Of course, the second one, has Dear Leader Donald Trump in it. And then you've got the Muppet Christmas Carol is quite excellent, actually. Ernest Saves Christmas. I'm trying to think of some other key ones.
Star Wars holiday special.
Oh no,
It's in 4K now.
Yeah.
Why? Why? Is
Really?
It in 4K?
Yeah, they
Is
put
it
out
on
a
Disney Plus now
4K
or
version.
something?
I don't think so. Have they put it on? I don't have Disney Plus, so I wouldn't know.
I don't either. But...
Oh man, because I remember seeing because I don't when I was a little kid, we had like that hand-me-down Star Wars books and stuff, and they would just I guess because they were in such a hurry, they would print stuff that would there would occasionally be things that would be printed in that didn't make the film, whatever. But I remember in one of those books they showed like stills from that Christmas special, and they were so bad and like fuzzy that they didn't distort my memory. Like I can't even remember what they looked like, but I remember they would just have like a most absurd ideas, like, oh yeah, they go to Grandma Chewbacca's house, and how like
Life Day, buddy.
that would have like ruined it for me if I had seen that if I had seen that in 4K.
Yeah, you could see Carrie Fisher coked out in 4K.
I don't know if I would mind that. Just being honest.
I mean, that's in the third movie. Sorry, we're getting off topic.
No.
In the third movie, you could see her coke finger, right? When she
can see it in A New Hope in some scenes where she's got her pinky fingernail. It's really long, and you can also see it in Empire.
Well, I know you can see it. There's a famous scene in the third film, but I believe you. I'm sure it's in others as well. That girl did a lot of cocaine.
That's like you're doing so much coke that like it would take like an extra 4 calories to grab like a credit card or a straw or something.
To be fair, like 70s, early 80s, like who is not, I guess, at that point, right? Like
Mark Hamill. I don't think he's about the only one.
Yeah, he might be the one. So we obviously know the answer to Die Hard. It is a Christmas movie. We're not going to debate that here. The real question is Nightmare Before Christmas. Is it Halloween or a Christmas movie? I'm going to go with Halloween just because you're going to go with both. Okay.
It fits in both. Listen, goth chicks watch it on Christmas and goth chicks watch it on Halloween. It's both.
Yeah, isn't that? Wouldn't you say that film had a decent hand in giving us the wonderful delights of things like Tumblr and stuff?
Oh yeah, that's like the gateway drug to be in
every like scene girl in middle school with the Jack Skellington like sweater or backpack. The art hoe, I think, is fundamentally it comes from that movie.
Just solely from that one.
Just God bless Tim Burton. And actually, he just produced it. He didn't even direct the movie. I forget who directed it. God bless Tim Burton.
I would hate, but I gotta admit, I loved his Batman movie. It was that's my favorite Batman.
First Batman, Tim Burton Batman is excellent. Don't let anyone tell you different.
It is. It's good. It's really good.
I mean, to be honest, his first flick, the Pee-wee film, is good too.
Yeah, that is also
his first movie.
That is his first movie. His first feature-length movie is Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and it's an excellent movie.
He did what's the one where the father's telling all the stories?
Big Fish. Also a good movie.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. Now, Citizen Kane. Let's all be honest here. Does anyone actually watch Citizen Kane, or do we all just know that's supposed to be the best movie?
Are you asking? Have I seen it?
A few times.
It's about a journalist, and then
it
becomes super. It's good. I get why it's good. It's got the best.
It's a thinly veiled biopic of William Randolph Hearst,
right?
But I mean, it's the more if you're a big film guy, it has the same impact. You could argue like Birth of a Nation did in terms of like filmmaking techniques. It's well known for what it accomplished and transitioned to scenes, but I think it holds up today in the same way that we talked about earlier about It's a Wonderful Life. Like, if you're going to want a serious drama of a story, a biopic, this would be the film for you. But I think that so many people get hyped up because it's considered the greatest film ever made that so many people just write it off and actually never see it.
Yeah, it's one of those. I feel like I've just never taken the time to go back to watch it for that reason, because once I watch it, it just won't hold up to what it's been described as.
It's got a really good room trashing scene. That man gets very angry and completely trashes his bedroom.
Somebody brought up in the was it Mars Attacks, which is another great film. I have a quick story. So I'm working at a bar by myself, and I've got my music on, and I'm listening to Hank Williams Sr. And the manager comes in, and he's like, "Is that the soundtrack to Mars Attacks?" Because the old woman, I guess, she played like ancient Hank Williams music that made the aliens their brains explode. I'm sorry, I just remember thinking, I was like, this guy was like, he was like in a band and stuff. I was like, you Philistine, like, what is wrong with you?
Mars Attacks, also an excellent pinball table. Just in case anyone out there is a pinball head.
It is.
That's a fun one if you get a chance to play that one. Let's see. Furious said he might have to reset his router. Are you here, Furious?
Oh yes, can you guys hear me? Am I right?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Actually, someone did mention in the chat, Master Commander, which probably is worthy of a chat afterwards. But I see this is a super chat, so.
Oh yeah, well, it's for you. They wanted you to explain how Das Boot is a Christmas movie. I think you were saying it was due to your father's tradition of watching submarine movies, but if you'd like to explain further how it's a Christmas movie.
Well, it is, in fact, maybe it was just misunderstood, but yes, it's just a tradition I have with my dad. But actually in the movie, and this is sort of, I don't know if you'd call it an Easter egg, but, and for anyone who's actually watched the movie, has anyone on the panel not watched it, or by any chance?
I don't think I have.
I think, okay.
But you can ruin it for me if it's fine.
Oh, no, it's okay. I'll keep it as brief as possible.
No, you can't. I'm not joking.
So basically they make their way back from like an ever elusive convoy attack, which they eventually, after much trying, managed to engage this, Atlantic convoy flight, sailing from America to Britain, and they sink a couple of ships and whatever, and they sort of bug out and try and go back to their port in La Rochelle. But on their way back to return to the port, they actually get an encrypted message from German headquarters, and that is to slide through the Gibraltar, what do you call it, the Straits of Gibraltar, and actually redeploy to one of the Italian ports. And one of the crew members actually cracks the shits because they're playing cards as the captain's announcing this to the crew, and they're saying. How to say in German, basically no, what the Germans call Christmas, Nein Weihnachten in La Rochelle, like no Christmas in La Rochelle. Instead, we're going to have Christmas with the macaronis, which is what they call the Italians. So if you take that small little scene from the movie, technically they're pissed that they can't spend Christmas at the home port like all the French girls and flower ladies. Instead, they're trying to sneak through the Straits of Gibraltar and underneath the entire British Royal Navy. So if you really want to find a loose connection to Christmas, it's that.
We can 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon our way to making that a Christmas movie.
I've got a little fun fact here for anyone who's into submarines. Go on eBay and look for an Enigma machine, sort by highest price. From what I understand, every U-boat in World War II was sunk. You know what I mean?
Most, not all.
It was like 2 or 3% survived. Well, that's
something very small.
That's even better because someone is selling a genuine. They had an Enigma machine and they had the Uber Enigma machine for the subs. Someone found one of these and is selling one of these on eBay for like 40 G's. That's got to be a rare bird, like a real no shit. A U-boat Enigma machine is on eBay. It's kind of incredible.
I looked it up and I can't help but laugh that it says pre-owned underneath the title.
What's the condition rating? Very good, good, slightly used.
Pre-owned by the Kriegsmarine.
Well, what's true, Bog, is so 3 in 4 submariners in the German Navy died. So out of 40,000 German submariners, only 10,000 survived the war, and I believe approximately a third of the submarines survived the war, if not operational, but sort of intact or at port or what have you. But what was practiced for the German subs, because the Enigma was so vital, they used to destroy the code books, but they'd actually have orders to either tip the machine overboard or to destroy it in the sub if they scuttled it. And that's why so few of them survived. And that's why, like, for instance, if you watch U-571, it's the operation in which to capture an intact Enigma machine, because they were so hard to come across. Because at the slightest hint of capture, the Germans would either scuttle the ship or destroy the machine. So for the Allies to actually get their hold of one in 1941-42 was really, really difficult.
That's too bad Churchill didn't have eBay.
That's right.
Yeah, that's it. All they needed was eBay. Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Darth Kilhoun here for $2 says Christmas Carol 1984 with George C. Scott is best. Yeah, obviously you've got a lot of different options there. I mean, I feel like Scrooged is obviously a classic. I didn't think about that one. I guess I would say the Muppet Christmas Carol is my personal favorite interpretation of that, but obviously not the most serious.
Also, George C. Scott played a fabulous, fabulous General Patton.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, George C. Scott, I think is really good as Patton, but I also really appreciate him in Exorcist 3 of all movies, which I know, like, that
He's in that?
franchise.
I don't even remember.
Well, he's one of the investigators, and he kind of finds out. That's a whole conversation for another time, but it's just like this movie franchise gets destroyed by the absolute crapshoot that's the second one, but they managed to bring in George C. Scott for the third one, and he does a really good performance in there. But what's also funny is that they do a documentary about the last days of Patton, like I think like 10, 15 years after they do the Patton movie, and they bring him back to actually play Patton again for this little documentary about like the last couple of months of his life of the war. And you can definitely tell that he's aged, but I just thought that it was cool for continuity's sake that they brought George C. Scott to play Patton again.
Which is a movie in itself full of red pills too, by the way.
The incident with the slapping always sounded like that was fake, like whatever, all this crazy press about it. Do you think the cathedral like basically destroyed him so he would not get political power after the war?
No, I think when he was accidentally killed, nobody in power was particularly sad, though.
Wait, maybe I have the wrong guy then.
No, when Patton had his accident, I don't think there were. I think there were a lot of people in power probably relieved that he.
Okay, I got you.
Dead.
Patton died at 45. Then, okay, then when did the slapping thing was? I don't know. So
this is a weird Christmas
Sicily.
43.
My bad.
No, it's okay.
He was in Sicily for 43. But no, it's interesting. Patton's an interesting person that probably doesn't get talked about enough, to be honest.
Yeah, like I said, guys, this is just a casual stream. We don't have to stay on topic. Don't worry
I
about
have a more casual Patton question. Was he a pagan, or was he just kind of like a meme guy? Like that he just he would tap into those things that like he would say that he's reincarnated and stuff like that. But it seemed like every now and then, like Churchill sort of played with these kind of things as well. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, he did claim to believe in reincarnation, and he was a student of history, and he was very different from a lot of the other American generals and how he projected himself. You know, I think America is really trying to push this whole middle class, shucks kind of, high school athlete football player is like the image of the American general. And he was a shameless aristocrat. Like he was not apologetic about the fact he came from money. He was not apologetic about, he would go off. He spoke French, and he would go and socialize with non-Americans. Yeah. He was definitely,
and he always made it known to people he was descended. He always made it known to people that he was a descendant of officers and like commanders in the Civil War. Like he he was not backwards in coming forwards about that either.
Yeah, he
to
was
further
very
those
much promoted.
aristocratic credentials.
Yeah, he very much promoted himself as a military aristocrat. Not that some of the other generals were not military aristocrats as well, but he was not. He did not attempt to hide. He promoted his past and he promoted his background. I think he was the richest American officer in the military as well.
Churchill,
his family had the most money.
Churchill definitely reveled in it, but his writing is so good. You just, it'll be hard to talk smack about because if you've read his books, which reading his books was like more about that. He's just a fantastic writer, and he's like, whenever he's talking about discussing some serious issue of the war, he's like, oh yeah, we were riding, yachts in the over here, and like he this is like a part of being a military officer to him, but
yeah, he was useful for his time, but I think politically he was a pain in the butt for that current political climate. And so when he had his accident, the powers that be were not sad that he died. I think that's kind of how it went.
That makes sense. That fixes my question from earlier because I didn't realize that he died in 1945. But the way they blew up the slapping story just sounded pretty fake because it was like, well, I mean, like in the other Allied countries, they just shoot you for desertion. And if you're slapping people for desertion, like back then, like I don't see like people just going crazy about that.
Think they were setting him up in case he had survived.
Yeah, and the other thing too with the slapping thing is that there was always, the United States has struggled with this sort of fifth column sort of, subversive element within its own news media, shall I say? And there were journalists who despised Patton for being what he was, this shameless military aristocrat, this not to use the word in a sullied fashion, but this sort of unapologetic American patriot that sort of extolled, that as he said in the speech in the movie, like Americans love a winner and they detest the loser. They always want the prize fighter, they always want the war hero. Americans will not, suffer second best. And you might say those of an egalitarian mindset with those kind of more, the cathedral-oriented ideology would have detested that in Patton because he just was in no way egalitarian in anything that he did as a military commander or indeed even as a soldier. If you look at his conduct in the First World War, I mean, he still wore his revolver. And when he actually was wounded twice in 1917, and he was doing it basically leading the first American tanks into battle on the Western Front on foot. Like the man was an absolute madman and took his leadership of his men very seriously. And there were people who either hated him or were scared of him in the media and even in the American command to some degree, which, as to American Omicron said, when he died, it was actually somewhat of a relief to the establishment because of it.
Well, apparently, according to Daniel Robinson, he also sent every soldier in the Third Army a Christmas card as they were fighting the Battle of the Bulge. So,
indeed,
good to know. Also, Darth Kilhoun here is saying that he was a Catholic, but I can't say that I know enough about Patton to say either way here.
Actually, one more thing I'd like to say about Patton, just because we're on the subject, is that I'm just trying to think. Oh God, I've just lost my train of thought. It had to. Oh yeah, no. There's a really interesting scene in the movie because I mean, Prude's obviously watched it, so you probably might remember it. But in the movie, there's an intelligence officer that the OKW sort of brings in to sort of study Patton, and the intelligence officer who because he's actually in, like, if you watch these 60s, 70s, 80s war movies, the actor pops up in a few of them. So anyone who's maybe seen The Eagles Landed might recall who the actor is. But the German intelligence officer does like a full report on Patton and then reports to his senior, who I think is General Jodl. And he basically says that, like, Patton is this remarkable oddity who is basically born several centuries after he ought to be. And, he walks around with, 6 shooters on his waist, and he believes himself to be a reincarnated Roman soldier who fought at the Battle of Zama. And he retells this story of, and to my knowledge, it is a true story, of Patton being out one night. He was like, at a party or something, some kind of, do, as it would have been back then, like a ball or something or other. And he saw two men like rustling at the back of a car, and he heard like a shrieking woman, and he runs to this vehicle, guns out literally, and trying to apprehend the men. But then what it actually was two, like the best man and the groom actually like putting the wife into the car, and she was giggling and not shrieking, and how all of Patton's cadres just couldn't believe as to why he'd intervene in like a random instance like that, but that he extolled such chivalric values that he, if there was a woman in distress, that he would literally run down the street to save her, and that's just the kind of character he was. And even people in German intelligence found it amusing that sort of Patton was this literally a 17th, 18th century person, like stuck in a 20th century's man's body. And I actually encourage, I'm sure Prue would agree, that if anyone hasn't seen the Patton movie with George C. Scott, do watch it. It's a very interesting insight into the man.
Yeah.
In the war between the states, a lot of the generals and officers would be fighting this horrible war with so many people dying, and then at night they would go to these like big balls and dancing as a gentleman, like Sir Walter Raleigh.
Let's see here. We got Daniel Robinson, who says, Bog, you need to check out Victor David Hansen's speech on Patton. Am I the only one for whom Victor Davis Hansen is just kind of like living, breathing, chloroform? Like as soon as he starts talking, I just completely check out. I don't know.
He's got moments. I will.
I mean, I read what he puts out, but I don't think I've ever listened to a speech of his.
Yeah, he's not. He's a good writer. It's just as soon as I hear him talking, I just like he shows up on Tucker, and I just immediately I need to just play him anytime I have trouble falling asleep, and it's over.
Yeah, and the other thing,
liking him, I can understand how people find him a bit boring. Yes.
Yeah, but Furious, what I was going to say, since you had gone at length on Patton, is that I don't know where on earth. I don't know if you can access it nowadays because the military installations have closed. But if you were to go back in maybe 10 years ago or so, when there was a stronger military presence in Heidelberg, Germany, where Patton had died in the car accident, there was like a medical clinic there, and I remember that there is a plaque that just says, like on this day, this is where General Patton had died in hospital. So yeah, it's something I got to definitely see as a kid, which is a neat little piece of history.
Not to change gears a little bit, but I'm hungry right now, but do you guys have a favorite Christmas food? Like a specific dish? Or we could talk about Patton. It's cool.
Honeyed ham.
Like honey baked ham, like from the store?
No, I mean like actual like honeyed and made from home ham.
That does sound good.
Like I said, I ended up with. Oh, go ahead.
No, go, Auron. I'll go after you, mate.
I was just saying, I ended up with biscuits and gravy this year, but we didn't have one set thing. Like I said, we always had the big spread from southern spread from my mom's side of the family when we got together with a huge number of people. So there was always my grandma had particularly good Christmas cookies, and there's some pretty serious casseroles. We're from the South, so casserole counts as a vegetable in my neck of the woods.
Collard greens, cornbread.
Cornbread, of course, and to be clear, sweet cornbread is not cornbread. If your cornbread is sweet, you need to leave. That's unacceptable.
But these cracklins as well, by the way.
Never ended up with a lot of cracklins, but I can appreciate that.
Pork crackling is pretty epic.
Yeah.
Yes. If not on Christmas Day, then between sort of Christmas and New Year's, one should always cook a pork roast, and yes, you should have crackling. The holidays aren't complete without a nice pork roast and crackling.
I always wondered if places like Whole Foods and stuff have things like cracklins and pig's feet and stuff like.
Yeah.
Oh, pig's feet are delicious.
Different assorted pickled pig's organs.
Mm. But
all right, tell us about your
struggle...
kangaroo steak and ostrich fillets over here. Sorry, emu fillets.
No, quite all right. Actually, because my background is not actually Anglo myself. I have a rather different take on Christmas, and my three. I honestly cannot pick one food, but my three would be, which are traditional in my family, is that my grandmother, who is no longer alive, but for many years, she would either make a lasagna with fresh pasta sheets, or a cannelloni, which is like pasta tubes filled with meat and meat and eggplant and tomato sauce and bechamel sauce laid over top of each other and just baked for sort of half an afternoon. Beautiful, delicious, traditional family thing in my family.
That does sound amazing.
It really is. It really is. And my other two would be is that my one thing my sister's done for many years is she does, because Prude made me think of it, a homemade ham, and it's sort of like a sweet and spicy ham. So we do it with maple syrup, but we also add like ground clove, ground nutmeg, cayenne pepper, just a hint of garlic powder, and peppercorns, and like we sort of stab the flesh and then we score the skin so that we can get the marinade like into the flesh and into the flesh of the pork, and like right across the skin, and the skin scorches. And we do it so that we sort of cook it. We'll start cooking it like in the afternoon, early afternoon, and then because she's an early bird, so she sort of goes to bed at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, and then I'm a night owl, so I'm up till like past midnight, and we're basting that ham every half hour for about 6 or 7 hours, cooking it about on just like a really medium heat, and then just turn the oven off and leave the ham in there to cool. So then whoever gets up first thing in the morning puts it in the fridge. So this ham is almost cooking for like 20 hours, and it's so tender and it's so delicious. That's probably the second thing I really like. And then the third thing is, because I believe on the East Coast you guys have really, really good prawns, in the States as well. And because Christmas in Australia is a summer occasion, what we do is we actually cook prawns and then sort of eat them refrigerated. We sort of eat them chilled, but after they've been cooked. And I absolutely adore prawns at Christmas. Like big, beautiful banana prawns or king tiger prawns are amazing. Those are my three quintessential Christmas foods, in my opinion.
Good choices.
I mean, I can't speak for prawns, but I mean, going after crayfish is definitely a timely tradition for us to have food here in Texas.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we had the 1 year where my uncle decided he was going to fry the turkey and inject it with Creole butter. And I don't know how many. Yeah, I don't know how many of those you get in your life without your heart stopping, but it's probably less than 5.
I don't know how many, Auron, but I am gonna find out.
Yeah, willing to find out. That's a question to answer. Yeah, but it was quite amazing. Let's see, not to run us right back into Patton here, but clear some of our super chats. Vingol says T.E. Lawrence was killed in a similar way and for similar reasons as Patton. P.S. Lawrence of Arabia is shown on state TV every Christmas here in Norway. And that's one of those movies that I actually had made it all the way to my late 30s without seeing, but finally watched last year and loved it quite a bit. That was an excellent movie. Glad I finally got around to watching that one. But are you guys woke on the T.E. Lawrence question?
Well, one thing I will say about T. Lawrence is that T. Lawrence was you might say an authentic and true-hearted supporter of what you might say would promise the Arabs, because the British more or less encouraged the Arabs to revolt against the Turks in World War One, because the British pushed into the Ottoman Empire from Egypt, which was a protectorate of the British Empire, and then the British, I think in 1916, if I'm not mistaken, landed on the the Persian Gulf, into Iraq from Basra, and sort of attacked the Ottomans from the south from two sort of different theaters, and I think what T. Lawrence proposed was like a partition, essentially, of like this sort of an Arab state, essentially like an Arab federation, sort of broken up amongst various clans, and that there'd actually be like a Christian enclave
on the what would turn out to be the French Lebanon, the country of the French-derived Lebanon after World War II, but sort of like a Christian Arab area, and then like an Arab confederation or Arab federation broken up amongst its various clans, because sort of Arab culture and Arab society is very much structured on a clan sort of system, was from the very beginning, and it didn't jive with what the British and the French were orchestrating with the Sykes-Picot Agreement, where basically the British and the French partitioned, or they annexed these areas that, modern day Jordan, modern day, Israel and Palestine, modern day Syria, modern day Iraq, off the Ottoman Empire, denuded it of its Arabic territories, and then split it up amongst themselves, which they governed as protectorates in the interwar period. And T. Lawrence was, you might say, a great interruption to those plans. And those who supported T. Lawrence, and then T. Lawrence himself, would not have gone along with what the British and French diplomatic corps had agreed to. So very much his untimely death was a gain of great convenience to what we might call the cathedral.
What about the James Forstall question here? Argyle Euphoria. I'm not sure what this is about, but anyone familiar with that assassination? No. Okay. Sorry, Argyle. We don't have all of these questions answered for you. Sadly,
I'm sorry, Pastor Posse doesn't quite extend so far to James Forstall, so my apologies for my deficiencies there.
I'll play the odds. I'm gonna guess it was an Illuminati plot.
Yeah, you got a safe bet there. Absolutely.
That gosh darn Illuminati at it again.
Well, what about some different family traditions? Mine would always, when I was a kid, would be the Great Wiffle Ball game. I don't know if you guys remember Wiffle Ball at all, but it's like you have the plastic bat and the big plastic kind of baseball thing with that's open, and it's kind of easy kid baseball. Basically, you can play with your hands, and we would get the entire family together. It would be all the uncles against all the different cousins, and we would have that showdown every year with the family. Anybody have a particular football or any kind of sport tradition or something that everybody gets together and plays?
No, we would always just try to get the smallest child in the family the loudest toy possible to annoy their parent. That was kind of our tradition. Christmas Eve, how can we find the most annoying toy possible that the kid's gonna love, and then encourage them to play with it right in their parents' ear.
Yeah, they had the tweet going around where someone said their brother didn't invite them to Christmas because they weren't vaxxed or whatever, and told them to stay home. So they screenshot the Amazon list of gifts they sent to their nephew, and it was like kids drum set, kids kazoo, like kids just like the loudest things they could possibly send. But would anybody else have a tradition, a game or something? Because we also did, we did Risk as well. We would always play.
How can
Risk.
I forget? We did. Yeah, we'd play Risk on Christmas Eve or Monopoly, but usually Risk. Sometimes Catan, but that started fights. So we'd go to Risk mostly. Yeah, we did Catan 2 years, and then we didn't do that anymore.
Catan and Monopoly are friendship and family breakers for sure. For us, what we would do, especially when we would be home for the holidays, because like you, Auron, I grew up with my dad being in the army. When we were home, so we would all gather around. My grandmother has this very long dinner table at her home. It's about maybe like 15 of us, and the family tradition for us, like our game, is Phase 10, the card game. So that's always been our tradition, is to play some kind of card game during the holidays, and it's usually Phase 10, which my father is notoriously good at. I don't know what it is, because a lot of it is, of course, there's some chance to it based on the draw, but yeah, that's our family tradition. Then I don't know how many other people do the whole Christmas pickle thing where you have and either an actual one, but for us it's the ornament where you hide it in the tree and you try and have the kids find it.
Yeah,
I never played hide the pickle on Christmas.
Makes for a far more interesting Christmas, I'd imagine. No, I have Ostracon and I have bad blood with Risk because one time
You're never gonna let that go.
I
are
will
you?
never let it go. I will
I was
never
like
let it go.
24,
It
and
doesn't
I had
matter.
I let my girlfriend win at Risk one time, and I've been paying for it for the rest of my life.
I had spent
You let her win?
I had spent 3.5 hours like backing them into a corner, and then Ostracon couldn't win, but she possibly could, and so he scuttled the game and threw it again. Took me out of the game so that she could win. And they broke up like 6 months later. Like, was it worth it, buddy?
That's a bro code violation.
By the way, yes, to answer your question, Auron, it was worth it that night. So I'd do it again. And I would betray you in Risk every time for my girlfriend.
I see how this is.
I have a nerdy.
So is this a revealed preference, by the way? Yeah.
Yes, I will backstab you in a board game for bonus points with a female that evening. Yes, I will do that.
Oof.
That's just
Oof.
I'm putting it out there right now. I don't care. You
Yeah,
know
I
what?
noticed.
Yeah, this is me. I'm not going to apologize for this. This has been 15 years in the making. I'm tired of this. You bring it up every year. Speaking of board games, I completely forgot. We always played Pictionary, which is the game that's really about how well you know your partner.
It is.
And it's a great way to watch marriages dissolve in front of your eyes. And I have seen marriages fall apart in games of Pictionary, and it has been bloody and epic, and it's hilarious when it's not your butt in the seat. Watching a married couple or a couple just yell at each other with the rage and frustration of not understanding and not being able to communicate with each other is it's the worst. It's worth the price of admission.
We have a board game called I think it's called like Sunken Sailor or something, and basically like each person there's a code that everybody gets except one person around the table, and everybody has to draw like a straight line and then pass the sheet, and you have to like draw something without hopefully telling the one person who doesn't know what everyone's drawing what it is. And if you're the person who like draws the last line that gives it away, like there's a penalty. So that one's interesting because it's like a reverse Pictionary. Everyone has to draw, and one person is in on what you're drawing, but you have to work to like make it as as difficult as possible to understand what's actually being drawn while still contributing to the picture. But yeah, no, Pictionary is the one where people are just screaming like, "Of course it's a boat!" Like, how could you not see it's a boat?
Well, other games that I know for sure that are fun to like try and stop people from winning or figuring it out. There's this I don't know if you could call it a board game, but I guess it is. It's called Killing Dr. Lucky, and the premise is that you are all. It's like reverse Clue. All of you are here to murder this old Victorian gentleman, and he is wandering around the mansion, and you're all trying to plot and kill him. So it'll be like, if, for instance, it would be easier to kill him in, say, the kitchen where there are knives and pots and pans than, say, like the water closet or something like that. And you're trying to make sure that you're the one that gets away with it to get a hold of the estate, and everyone else is trying to play cards to make it harder for you to successfully pull off the murder. But the cost of, playing those cards is that it'll be harder next time to stop you because you have less. But that one's a lot of fun, just trying to plot and screw over your fellow murderers as this like old Victorian mansion and its owner just wander around the board. That one's a lot of fun to play.
Colonel Mustard with the candlestick in the library.
Well, I don't know how deep you guys go on the board games, but there's this massive board game called Twilight Imperium.
Yes.
So
you need a weekend to play that.
Yeah, so Twilight Imperium is definitely one of those, like you start at 11 a.m. and if you're lucky you get done by 7 or 8 p.m. And it was in one game where I got I got jumped really early on, and it's like a space exploration board game. It's one of those 4Xs. And they had pinned me down in the first hour, and I was just going to get blown out. This is like a 9-hour board game, and I was going to lose in the first like hour or two. And I got one of the guys who had me dead to rights to argue with another guy for no reason, and they ended up like turning on each other and fighting each other instead of finishing me off. And they got so heated that during one of the like breaks, when we were out in the parking lot of the store we're playing at, they were screaming at each other. Like they were in a full blown knockdown drag out, just screaming match over like me convincing them to turn on each other so that they didn't take me out in the middle of that. But
I'm a virgin when it comes to board games, except for, I mean, like, because you say board games, there were like the board games of my youth, which were like a Monopoly and stuff like that. And from what I'm told, like we were like in a golden age of board games. And I'm friends with lots of people that are into them. One of my the only reason I bring this up, one of my Christmas gifts, one of my friends gave me a subscription to, I guess it's some thing where you can play them online or whatever, and it's like all of them. I have made a verbal agreement to play one of these. We're gonna try doing these on stream. We'll see how it goes. But I've heard the new generation board games are because you know Monopoly and stuff. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I mean, it had a lot of problems. You know.
Yeah, one of my friends asked to borrow one of my board games because he knew I had a wall of board games and he had family in town. I was like, "Yeah, man, just pick one." And he grabbed it, and then a week later he came back and he's like, "Dude, we were drinking and I have no idea what that game does. Like, it's wildly complicated. No one could figure any of it out, and we just gave up immediately."
Yeah, there's some out there that can just throw you for a whirl in terms of like reading the rules. But like when you're talking about Twilight Imperium, so like for those who don't know, like I did speech and debate in high school and college to a very nerdy national degree. But we had a set of us that played Risk with some contemporary rules. So one of the events that you do in speech is called extemporaneous speaking, where you're typically given like a question about the news and you have to come up with a 7-minute speech with limited amount of research. But a lot of the times they're about like foreign affairs questions. And so our rules were that we would draw various names of world leaders out of a hat. And we would start in that particular area. So like if you were Angela Merkel, you'd get parts of Europe. If you were Donald Trump, you would get parts of the United States or whatever. And it was just a great way to you had to role play and try to achieve these goals while still being in character for Risk. It was a lot of fun.
Nice. Oh man, yes. Anyone remember Stratego? Anyone play this one?
Stratego is an excellent game.
Yeah, this is my father and
I need to play that more.
Yeah, I need to get a copy of this because my father and I played this and chess. Like these were the two games, board games I played as a kid. Like me and my dad would just play those two games constantly. Stratego is an excellent game. Especially if you're trying to introduce a kid to something a little more complicated. It's not overly complicated to where you have to remember a ton of rules, but I would say it's a good kind of a starter chess where each piece kind of has some of its own rules, but it's not as complex and a kid can still play a lot of it.
Have you? I just want to bring up something quick on chess. I've noticed this thing you see on that's come up about. I've seen you see it a lot on Twitter. I guess just people talk a lot, but I've heard it even across my life. There's this thing people do where they go. Because I used to play a bit of chess myself, but people go, I've been thinking about getting into chess, and they sort of lay out what they think chess is. And the thing is, like all these people, I don't know if it's a PR campaign by chess players or whatever, but like everything they think that is true about the game of chess, like is refuted with the concept of openings.
Yeah, I have a number of uncles who were very good at chess. So I learned a decent amount just by playing against them and losing constantly. But I was never a competitive player or anything, so I can't get too deep into it. Other than the one day I finally battled my grandfather to a stalemate was one of the proudest days of my life.
Yeah, have you heard about? Do you know about openings? Because I didn't play past that part either, right? And because almost most people don't, because chess is awesome, and like the idea is that like and it is a cool game, and people say it's like, well, I just like if I'm making this decision in the moment, I could do awesome, but if I have to like a lot of other games, they're like, oh well, it rewards people who just memorized things, blah blah blah. It's like, well, chess is like that, like times a million. Because like if you're good, you have to memorize like everything that can happen in like the first 9 or 10 moves or whatever. And I don't know, it's a huge part of the game, and like that takes away a lot of the fun from a lot of people who imagine themselves they were going to become a chess master. They find about this part of the game called openings, and it ruins their fantasy.
Did you see that they had that Netflix show about the lady chess player, and then they came out with the board game, which is just chess. Like it was like they had a branded version of chess based on the TV show.
We've seen that before. Remember, as kids, they were like, "There's this hot new Nintendo game out. It's called the Chess Master 2000." And it's got warriors and wizards and goblins, and you're like, oh wait, it's just chess.
No, that was cool because it was battle chess. It had the
I'm sorry, battle.
Yeah, they had the animations. That's what was the best part about that. It's just chess, but you got to watch the cat, the rook, like smash people and stuff. That was very exciting.
A woman playing chess. I've never heard. That does sound interesting. I've never heard of that in my life.
Was it the Queen's Gambit? I think was the name of the show. But anyway, I just saw that they had the board game in Target. It's like that's just chess. But.
Well, anyone watching the stream or whatnot, I do play like chess through like chess.com. So if anyone ever wants to challenge me to a game, it's just the same handle on here, American Ostracon, except there's no space because they don't allow that. So. Yeah, I'll always play somebody in a game of chess.
There you go. Gauntlet Throne.
Nice. Do you get what I mean with the openings thing, Ostracon?
I mean, there's a lot of different openings, obviously. But openings aren't such a big deal. It's not so much memorization as, developing your pieces and then at that point looking for openings in your opponent's defense if they've made mistakes, or if they're really good they haven't, and then you start to have to like shift the game around and decide based upon the board what line you want to take or where you want to attack at that point. I guess there was a lot of there's a lot of me playing very poorly for a long time before I started to understand the game better. But I like to play.
I guess I just mean people imagine that like you can't, that like in other games you can level up by just like busy work, homework, memorizing things, and they imagine that chess is immune from that. I think like later on, Bobby Fischer was like the whole concept of openings drove him so crazy. He was like, we need like chess 2 where the opening pieces are randomized and things, because like that one thing of people love about chess, the idea that it's just like they like imagining like just your raw IQ, just like in that moment being like what wins and loses, and like there's no like anything else. But anyways, I don't want to get bugged out.
No worries. I'll just say one thing. Bruce asked what's my rating and time odds. I usually just play 30-minute games of chess, and my rating's not great. It's around 700, so it's pretty low. But I do enjoy playing a game of chess.
We might not be taking down any grandmasters.
No, it's quite low, but I enjoy it and it's fun. It's a good pastime.
Well, let's see. We got Christmas movies, Christmas meals, traditions. Let's see. Is there anything? Christmas music? I don't know. I'm a God Rest You Merry Gentlemen fan, but I don't know.
In terms of carols.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Sorry. I always like Christmas Time Is Here by Vince Guaraldi. I don't know if that counts as a Christmas carol, but the Charlie Brown Christmas song.
Yes.
Everyone else, all your families go caroling. You walk up to random doors in your neighborhood in like downtown Detroit or San Francisco, and you just start singing Christmas songs at people's doors.
I have gone caroling before, though always in small southern towns. I never had to visit any.
I was in a fraternity and they forced us to do this. Which it's bizarre this concept even still exists, but yeah.
Well, we did. I was kind of in the situation when I was a kid where we were at the church every time the door was open. So I did a lot of the, like the handbell, the Christmas handbell, choir and stuff. They always need to find some guy to ring the giant bell.
Yeah, we're probably not from very different parts of the world, because
no, I don't think so.
They say in South Alabama you could shoot a pissel down Main Street on Sunday morning, and you wouldn't hit a person because everybody's in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, also just it's changed now, but I used to live in area rural enough where you could drive about 10 minutes out, and we'd take shotguns and throw 5-gallon jugs out on the hill and fire slugs at them, because you could just fire and nobody would call the cops or anything. It was just normal. So
yeah, tannerite, but
yes.
Kind of put an end to that.
yeah. Once things started exploding, and who was the gun guy on YouTube who loved to fire those FPS Russia? Whatever happened to that guy? Is he still out there somewhere?
I haven't followed him, but I know that there was a huge lib freak out over some YouTube guy that maybe 2 or 3 years ago that he was bought a new riding tractor, a riding lawnmower, and so he just filled the old one up with tannerite and he blew it up on YouTube, and like the whole liberal media was just like they're like, what are we gonna do about this? These rednecks, they're preparing for civil war.
We have to shut it down.
It's like, no, that's just a good time.
Yeah, no, there's someone posted they're like pictures of like 5 families, like white people getting guns for Christmas, and I just like retweeted it, like, it's called having a culture, sir. Like,
that was probably that was the best gift this year for me, was just getting cases of ammunition, because I'm just like, I knew this cost an arm and a leg for you, and I'm deeply grateful.
Yeah, no, anytime someone asks me like what's a good generic gift, I was like, ammo, man. Absolutely. Actually, I got to go shooting shotguns. We did shooting clay pigeons earlier this week, so that was pretty exciting.
Shout out to King Dave.
Yep, we got the distributors there in the chat. Good to see you, Dave. Merry Christmas.
I was working on his interview with Woes this morning. I got halfway through it. It was really good.
Yeah, we had a lot of people kind of in our circles who ended up on Woes' stream, and Dave had a great one. Charlemagne had a great one. Charlemagne was supposed to be here, but he just never showed up. He said he was going to be late, and we just never saw him. But he had a good one. Semiagog was on there. Who else was on there? Prudentialist.
Turnip was on there.
Turnip was on there.
Apostolic Majesty was on there. Of course, Academic Agent. I don't know if I just mentioned
Academic
him.
Agent. Yeah. Last Things.
That's right. Yeah. Last Things.
So there's quite a showing there at the end of the year. I was surprised at how many people we knew who.
And Mr. D will be on later.
Oh yeah, Mr. D is going to be on there. That's right.
Man, Distributors had a great point when he's talking about, like, because they're like, because a lot of people think that like rich people can't be afraid of cathedral, and this is like one of the points to refute sort of cathedral stuff. And he brought up that guy Donald Sterling, that he made a comment on a private phone call to a GF, and then like he's like some kind of billionaire or something. Next thing you know, like
basketball team, right?
Yeah. And a bunch of people who aren't billionaires took his stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. There was another really good point during Dave's stream that I was trying to remember. I tried to hang on to. I'll have to. I'm sure I wrote it down somewhere. But someone said the Franklin was on there too. I didn't get to see his yet, but yeah, that's one I wanted to check out as well. There's so many interviews that I kind of wasn't able to get through all of them, but I tried to catch as much as I could.
Did the Antifa net guy come back?
What the what? I don't know.
The Antifa guy with the long neck. Did he come back this year?
Was he on his stream at some point?
Oh, you missed that. He I don't know, like 2 or 3 years ago. That there's a famous Antifa guy that went on there. Never mind.
No, I know the guy you're talking about. I just didn't know he was on.
Yeah, he was on
stream at some point.
He was on a millennial. Yeah.
Oh, really? I did not know anything about this.
Yeah, they had this really hostile debate. It was very interesting.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fireworks.
Yeah.
He was on a couple different conservative things, I want to say. I feel like he talked to like Steven Crowder or something too. Like he was He was on a couple different things. I guess he was looking for his 15 minutes there.
Yeah, that guy was like a straight professor and stuff. But I wonder, who knows what he was up to? But I guess he just got bored by it. Just went back to the.
What about you, Furious? You have any favorite millennial streams? Did you catch any of that?
Actually, yeah, I started by watching Philosopher Cat actually, because I do like her sort of insights regarding Evola and whatnot. And as someone who just recently acquired a couple of Evola books, I kind of felt that going down that tangent might be good to sort of not be overwhelmed by Evola, because I've read and seen that a lot of people are overwhelmed by Evola, so that was good. And of course, like you mentioned, Auron, a lot of the guys in our sphere who went on there. Of course, my my fellow peer from the Pasta Posse, I really enjoyed AM stream. Actually, they touched on some really important issues pertaining to Britain, which was quite elucidating as well to their particular circumstance regarding the royal family and whatnot.
Yeah, that was a particularly good one.
Absolutely. And for guys who, well, I mean, in the end, they were talking from a British perspective, but like they said, the stream, I mean, things that occur regarding the royal family have an impact in the wider Commonwealth. And I mean, that includes Canada, that includes Australia, that includes New Zealand. And of course, we'll say, like, for Brits about the domestic issues, being a part of the Commonwealth, it affects Britain as well. And so I thought some of those insights and those discussions that those two had were very, very good. And for those who have listened to me before, I think the world of Apostolic Majesty, I think he's an extremely smart man, and his insights are very sober and very, very from a place of deep knowledge, and you could never waste a minute of your time listening to anything that Apostolic has to say. So for those who haven't actually watched his channel, I absolutely encourage you to go watch his stuff. I mean, I'm merely a contributor along with other people such as Semiagog and Columbo as well. I mean, Columbo, myself, and Apostolic do a lot of streams together, and his research is absolutely second to none. He's very well studied, and none of those streams contain, might say, garbage or filler. He's very good at that. Just going back to Millennial, sorry. I thought AA stream was excellent too. Mm-hmm. AA is really, really sharpening, shall I say, the edge in terms of how do we quantify, not so much how to quantify, but, you yourself, Auron, talk a lot about the cathedral and, the bureaucratic managerial elite and these sort of engine rooms of the miasma that is sort of overcoming all that we know and love, all of us on the stream tonight and all the viewers. And if you have any kind of traditionalist or reactionary standpoint, then sometimes it is so easy to get lost in the fog of war regarding how do I think about this, or what should I do, or what should my reaction be, or how should I try and conceptualize this both for my benefit, or if I feel this way, how do I express it to others? And I thought AA stream with Millennial was savage isn't the right word, because I don't think it came from it wasn't like some wild eye kind of Tarzan-like experience, but AA's laser focus on this issue has been really, really coming to the fore in recent months. And I thought with Millennial, he absolutely was just crosshairs on the target regarding that whole subject, and him and Woes really, really got into the nub of this subject, regarding the cathedral, regarding our environment, our political, socio-political situation that we all have to live with under in our respective countries. And that stood out to me most of all.
Yeah, I felt like AA did a great job of taking a number of threads that had run through Millennial through a bunch of different interviews that different people had talked about, and really bringing them together and like I said, sharpening them, kind of putting.
Which I never do when I. Yeah, which I never do when I talk. So I'm so glad that many of you, like yourself, or on like Charlie, Charlemagne, Prude, you guys have that really narrow focus, because I'm atrocious at focusing on a single point. So God bless us, the guys like you exist to be able to do that, because I'm utterly hopeless.
Yeah, I think AA had an excellent line with that, and I still think there's a few heavy hitters because I mean, Millennial had a lot of big people on it. You had James Dellingpole was on there, which is wild. And then I think Morgoth is still coming up, right? I don't think Morgoth has been on yet. So I think you'll see him too. So there's a lot of big names this year. I was surprised now that he's moved on to Odyssey. I feel like Woe's still put together a top tier lineup, so that was great.
Exactly.
See the numbers on Odyssey. I was shocked. I haven't spent much time there.
Not all of them.
There's hundreds of comments, thousands of views. Like, wow, Odyssey is popping.
I'm glad too, because I hate BitChute so much. Like everyone's like, "Oh, you've got to get on BitChute. It's so important to have BitChute." And I tried uploading to BitChute, and everything failed, and it took hours. And like some of my stuff would sit in there like processing for days, and I just hated it. And then Odyssey came along, and it automatically spools everything over from YouTube, and you can stream on it, and it's just a way better alternative. So I'm glad that it's seeing the traffic, because I just refuse to use BitChute. It's just garbage. So I'm glad that there's an alt tech platform that we can rely on that is not BitChute. I'm glad Odyssey's got a better product out there.
Speaking of which, I mean, I've been reading a lot of comments people lately. People are saying, like, "Oh, you know, all this NRX stuff is over. It's over," especially because, well, whatever. This never did anything. Blah blah blah. Well, I mean, look around. So Bitcoin's popping. Alt tech is it's still kicking on some level. Mobug is on Tucker. Things are fine to me.
No, there's. I mean,
actually,
sorry. Go ahead.
Actually, Auron, and I was going to say someone I absolutely forgot, because I've really been following his work in recent months. It'd be totally remiss for me to mention is actually Krogan, American Krogan. That interview that he did with Millennial was excellent as well. Definitely worth mentioning. And I think sort of, you know, and there are people, whether it's, you know, yourself, whether it's Krogan, whether it's Blackpilled, some of you guys who delve into these you might say veins of mainstream discussion or talking points or whatever, or even mainstream culture, and sort of decant it through our lenses and sort of put like a traditional aspect on it, or a reactionary sort of, or neo-reactionary sort of framework through it, and you try and sort of dismantle this sort of fog that the cathedral puts over the things that disguise them, and then you sort of peel away the layers and are able to explain things at a more basal and clear level for people to really sort of understand the real meaning or the real intent of something that is put out in, you know, via these many vectors of attack that the cathedral use. And Krogan, I think, is probably one of the stars of 2021 in that regard. So yeah, his appearance was good.
Yeah, Krogan and Blackpilled, obviously, like, you know, Blackpilled with movies and then Krogan with video games. That's definitely a focus they have. That's excellent. I haven't spent as much time with maybe some of the cultural stuff, but they definitely have that locked down. And to what Bog was saying, yeah, I think you're right that there's this thing that happened where a lot of the NRX's analysis, I think, won out. But a lot of its solutions didn't. And so we're in a weird situation where a lot of people are echoing the elite theory of power, which is, to be clear, what was always valuable about NRX. And I think AA is probably right to start trying to separate the elite theory of power from neo-reactionary solutions, because the neo-reactionary solutions aren't particularly good, and the elite theory was what was valuable there. And so it was a great year for elite theory and a bad year for neo-reactionary solutions, I think. But I think you're hearing a lot of those.
Yeah, but on that point, I think sometimes with NRX, I don't think NRX necessarily pertains to necessarily having solutions, but in some ways explaining the state of play of something, or being able to put a situation or a group or an event through, you might say, a filter, or being able to sort of like unscramble it and decipher it and then explain it in terms that we can understand it, rather than sort of having a whole bunch of people who are hoodwinked. Rather, we are able to perceive or to understand a more central truth to these things, which the cathedral are pointing out. To which point, I think NRX, or the framework of NRX, still
gives us a group of tools to be able to overcome those things that the cathedral will spit at us. So I don't think it's all useless on the NRX angle. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just my take on it.
No,
it's
I
not
would
a
agree.
solutions thing. This isn't Marxism. There isn't a final victory of the proletariat.
Yes.
You know, the part of this thing about the elite stuff is that if you're staying up all night reading Mencius Moldbug, you're probably not going to be there when the new world is divvied up, you know?
Yeah. No, I made a video about this and about keeping one eye open and kind of how we use ideological lenses to kind of perfect things, but we forget all the stuff we're closing our eye to when we do this. And people do this all the time within RX. They say, what's the neo-reactionary take on dating, or what's the neo-reactionary take on my personal life? It's like, guys, this is not a religion. It's not a totalizing system. It's just simply a tool. And if you try to force it to be like a worldview or a costume, you're going to embarrass yourself. It's good this one thing, use it for this one thing, and then put it away. Don't try to force it to do a bunch of things it was never intended to do, or you will embarrass yourself when you try to do it. And so I think people who keep that in mind, there's still a lot of value in it. The truths of Machiavellian politics are real. James Byrne and Mosca and all these other guys who explored them are correct in many ways. That's the stuff that's valuable. That's the stuff that works going forward.
Yeah, money. It's kind of like these people. Sorry, go ahead. It's kind of like if you're Japanese, like Machiavelli is the best because people understand how to consume Machiavelli. You don't have to agree with him. Like you could disagree with everything that Machiavelli says, but you still get something out because this kind of like it gives you a framework to start talking about things. You could be Japanese and you can get a lot out of Machiavelli. You could be African and get a lot out of Machiavelli. People are really they're just really weird about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want their explanation of politics to also inform their culture and their, like I said, people so desperately want to have something to fit into and a team to belong to and an identity. And so they take these things and they spin them into stuff that it's not. And I get it. Like a lot of people encourage this, right? Like you need your Marxism starter pack. This is how you behave when you're a Marxist. This is what you wear. These are the people you hang out with. These are the people you talk to. And so they try to do this with every corner of the internet, and it's just really unhealthy. I understand why, and I hope we are growing a community, but the community should, when you try to take some autistic understanding of politics and you try to blow that up into its definition of a community, it doesn't work. You need something else, and that's something we've all hit on. I don't think that's news to anyone. That's something people like me and Charlemagne have mentioned many times, and people just need to remember that it's not about trying to turn this one understanding of politics into an entire lifestyle, an entire culture. It's you understanding it's a tool that you can use to then further your goals. That's all there really is to it.
Yeah, I mean, people
tools-
search.
Sorry, go Prud.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, I was going to say that. Oh.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Furious. Go ahead.
Prudentialist first, and then Furious. I'm going to dictate
Okay.
traffic here.
Well, no, that's
go
the thing, right? Is that people, especially, I think it's two things. One, I mean, people want an all-encompassing narrative because we look for that story. We look for a through line to make sense of things. That's why you'll get people asking like, "Oh, well, what is the take on this?" Or, I mean, I get this all the time because in my corner, I guess, of what I do, right, is the international relations side of things, and I view things from sort of this structurally realist lens. And I'll get questions all the time in my chat, like, "Well, what's the realist take on this?" or "What's the realist take on X, Y, and Z?" And just like when people ask about like, "What's the neo-reactionary position on dating?" Like, there's not going to be a like Bog had said, it's not Marxism. Like, there's not going to be an all-encompassing factor with an end game. Like, there are ways to analyze things. There are ways to take care of and look at the world. But the second thing I think about it too is just like, it's 2021. People are more online than ever. And I think what we've witnessed over the last 30 years is just the total transformation of our like social networking, our ability to process information and communicate with others. So we're now all overly online. we're all kind of like trying to find people that we agree with and find this sense of community. And people, I think, really get lost in the minutia of internet politics, where and you'll see this too, right, with like BreadTube or like Marxist Twitter, where it's just like, here's your starter pack, here's who you associate with, here's the trendy philosopher this week, please enjoy this YouTube compilation of Zizek breathing in really weird, and here are your hormones, like that, there you go, right? Like and that's the problem, I think, where we have with a lot of internet politics is that it are overly online and our desire for these grand narratives.
Yep, absolutely. Furious, go ahead. You guys were too polite to each other, so I had to step in there and get someone to talk.
No, thank you. All good. And Prud more or less canvas sort of in a far more articulate way than I would about what I was going to say. And to boil down what I was going to say in my own words is that people have to have an understanding of the usefulness of tools or the application of tools. You know, for instance, the work that you and Charlemagne primarily have done regarding, you know, NRX and, you know, writers such as you know, the Juvenile and say AA with Carlyle and Charlemagne with his wonderful work pulling apart and explaining Moldbug and you know, unqualified reservations and his other works, etc., more or less was what I myself needed personally to sort of say or to come to the conclusion that yes, the system as is isn't working, much of it is a sham, and this is how they keep the Ponzi scheme going. And you know, how a person reacts to that is their own business. But, you know, for me, it's like, if I just let demoralize me and make me sad, I'm going to be ineffectual and it's going to affect my own life, my family's life, etc. I will choose to do things personally different, or, you know, I will choose to accept the world as it is and not just get downtrodden and crestfallen about it. And I will do what I can within my own power. And say, for instance, like, you know, this is the sort of, for me, I've stepped into this realm where, you know, I've been on Apostolic channel and we've done history streams and it's been a good deal of fun. It's been very, you know, soul satisfying. And Mr. Prude, he has actually had me on a couple of times when we've spoken about grand strategy, and it's been very, very fulfilling and most enjoyable. And I've been so fortunate to come into a community of very intelligent and welcoming and decent, loyal people that I will be forever grateful for. But that, you know, okay, the world is in a difficult place, but you still are master of your own domain, at least to a point. Although, you know, Lecouf has probably changed that to an extent. And certainly some people have felt the arm of their respective government sort of, you know, quite strongly. But, you know, like going back to the tools, what I was sort of saying is like these tools have a purpose. Like in the end, if you want to dig a hole in the ground, you use a shovel. You know, if you want to cut back your trees, you use shears or trimming scissors. You know, if you want to, you know, if you want to take the wheel off your car, you use, you know, like a torque wrench or a, you know, or you know, if you're, you know, painting, use a brush. Like, you know, tools have a specific purpose and are used for a specific reason. And these tools that come, you know, with the NRX framework or with these respective writers, again, like, you know, like Juvenile, Carlyle, de Maistre, whatever, use those tools to your advantage to understand how things are, but they aren't going to be a magic elixir. They're not going to be the cure-all. For all of us, they are means by which to understand how things are, and we can't expect it to be a Pandora's box at the bottom of this that's going to be the solution. I mean, in the end, these things that we're confronted with are derivative of, you know, of the French Revolution, of Jacobinism, etc., you know, of Marxism, of deconstructionism, of nihilism, all these sort of various forces that have sort of sprouted out of this, you know, subversive sort of mutated child of you know, an errant intellectual branch, you know, that's occurred within Western European history in the last 200 years. So there's going to be no ready playbook as to how to fix it. There's going to be no ready playbook as to how to live through it or to ride the tiger, to use that, you know, colloquialism. But we need to use these tools relevantly, and we need to use these tools in order to improve our own understanding, or indeed, as many people in this community have done, again, like you, Auron, like Charlie, etc., to offer perspective to people who might be on the precipice or might just need a little bit of assistance getting there. But we can't expect there to be some, you know, like magic pudding at the end. Like in the end, this is going to be difficult to live through. It's going to be difficult to work through, and we may not prevail in the end. But we should always aim
should always aim with the prospect of thinking that we can, and we should balance out optimism with pessimism, with realism, and go about it in the best way possible without destroying ourselves. Because ultimately, if we destroy ourselves and we fall into, you know, lapses of depression, then what's the point? You know, it's going to be good for no one. So my sort of, if I have something of a Christmas message, is that Christmas should teach us something about how we should treat ourselves, and that is to, even in dark times and in troublesome times, you know, stick at it. You know, don't lose hope. Use these tools to understand the world, but live your life as you can. It's really that simple. Don't expect, you know, magic at the end of it. Never works out that way.
Quick thing here. An easy cure for this. Okay, so you need instant magic, superpower, and political process. Like that's what you really want. So forget all this politics stuff. There's, you know, this mole bug and all this kind of stuff. I just want instant superpower in politics. Okay. You know, join Antifa, go to grad school. Well, I don't want to do that. I want, you know, all this other stuff. Okay, let's imagine right now, whoever would think something like this. Imagine I made you tomorrow. You become the president of the United States, which is probably like the single most powerful political office that like a one human soul could occupy right now. Okay, well, that you realize like even how limited that is. Like so much has been written about this that like even if you're sitting in that chair, guess what? There's like 10 million judges that get to pick through everything that you do. You have to make deals with this guy and that guy. This is just that kind of stuff is just sort of fantasy.
No, it's definitely true. And as Furious said, you know, people need to have a realistic understanding of where we're going, but also a positive vision for what can be done and understand in these times. And so I wanted to end on a positive note, because we're coming close to time where I got to head out here. But I wanted to give everybody a chance, because I know while we're you know, in many ways looking at some difficult times, I think there's been a lot of people who are also doing good work, and they're winning, and they're having achievements. And so I wanted to give kind of everybody a chance to, since we're getting to the end of the year here, just kind of talk about what they're grateful for and things that have gone well, and things that they kind of see as positives. And so I was just going to go around real quick and just kind of get, you know, things people are thankful for and things that have gone well for them, and maybe things that they've achieved that they're grateful for, and opportunities and that kind of thing. So Prudentialist, do you have anything you want to talk about a little bit about things that opportunities you've had or things that have gone well this year?
Sure. Like I had mentioned in my little Christmas address, so if you're a fan of like fishing, then by all means go ahead and watch that. I kind of outline my positive takes for everybody there. I highly recommend that you go watch it. But like I had mentioned there, 2021, despite everything, has been a very good year for me personally. I'm 6 months post kidney transplant. I'm a brand new man, and I beat the coof. It is an immunosuppressed person. So personally, I am very much thankful and grateful, and it has helped me reaffirm my faith in a lot of ways. But as for everybody else, and there's a great video that Auron has on C.S. Lewis and the abolition of man. I do think that the latter half of the 20th century was about the abolition of man, and now in the 21st century, especially with the internet, it's about the atomization of man. And that is the greatest temptation that I think anyone watching this needs to resist, because a lot of it is very easy to go doom scrolling on Twitter or to talk to people and just, you know, commiserate in what you see on the headlines or what you see on YouTube. And I had concluded my talk on my channel saying, you know, when's the last time you worked on that fence that your neighbor asked about? When's the last time that you looked at your grandmother's car when she called you about it? These are the kind of things that I think you need to stay grounded in, because you are the master of your own domain in front of your own reality. If there's one thing in the world that Jordan Peterson got right, it's the idea that you got to look at your room, look at your life around you, and look and take stock of what you can control and what you can do. And despite everything that's going on, and I know the rest of the world is crazy, because there are some of us that live in states here in the US where we're blessed, where it acts like nothing really happened, where in the meantime, there are people like Furious, where he's in Australia, where they've returned to their penal colony roots, and that's terrifying. I think that now more than ever, especially in the time of Christmas, especially if you're Christian and you do celebrate it that way, that you really just recognize that you're not alone, whether it's online or in real life. And that the one benefit I've seen since I've started creating things and making videos is how welcoming this community is, and that there are people to talk to, there are people to have advice with. And so I would say do not fall into that disgusting nihilistic temptation of being atomized. There is work to be done, yes, but that does not mean that giving up should be the first thing that crosses your mind.
Absolutely, and yeah, I'm really grateful too that you've had those medical battles and won those, man. We're all very happy about that, and so that's a huge blessing through the year. Bog, what about you? Is a banner year for the good old boys? Any things you want to share, uplifting, positive opportunities you guys have had?
Yeah, it has been. We've made it almost a year through the Biden administration, so it's only three more left, guys. It's all downhill from here. Good old boys has been doing very well. It's been doing insanely well. I've got way too much to be thankful. Everything has been going so supremely well in my life Merry Christmas, everybody. And we'll be streaming tonight if people are hungry for more content. But I got nothing else.
Excellent. Yeah, make sure you guys check out Bog. I put everybody else's like Twitters and stuff in there, but I wasn't sure if any of the good old boys were going to make it, so I didn't get to add them. But make sure you're checking out Bog and Merrick on Twitter, and then checking out their podcast. Furious, I know you already touched on it a little bit with some of your opportunities, but anything you want to go over, personal wins or things you're thankful for as the year closes out?
Well, for those who sort of follow some of my antics across sort of recent months, I'm sort of in the midst of a bit of a lifestyle change, which has been made invariably more difficult by the COVID situation, particularly from an economic standpoint. I'm actually following in the family footsteps of returning to the land. So my family are relocating to a smaller property, you might say, and I'm leaving the city, you might say, in a graceful sense, so that my hand isn't forced, because I have the feeling that one day in the not so distant future, urban living will become increasingly intolerable and increasingly insufferable. And one thing that the COOF lockdown from last year taught me was that I never want to be stuck in a situation where I'm living in a townhouse in a city and I have to line up for basic commodities, and I'm going to be in the same situation as everyone else, where I'm going to be living from hand to mouth at the good graces of the powers that be, and I'm going to be vulnerable to them and to their whims. And I could think of nothing more intolerable. I'd never want to be in that position at all. And I'd hate to give. I don't even call them people anymore. Actually, for anyone who actually does follow me on Twitter, they might actually notice this pattern. I never call them people. I call them monsters or creatures, because those that have done this to us are not people. It's that simple. And as for me, I'm sort of in the midst of that transition, so that's a bit of a win for Auron. Secondly is I believe as of next year, the Pastor Posse might be doing things a little bit differently, but I should still be doing that stuff with Columba and Apostolic Majesty on his channel, which I look forward to. Actually, I do believe this might be the first time I've been on yours, Auron, so I appreciate you making a spot for me tonight. It was good to be introduced to another audience and to interact with another group of chat, even though there's a lot of overlap between us, obviously. And I've really enjoyed the conversations we've had, so thank you, sir. And I don't know, Prude, we have stuff that's on the cooker at the moment, but you having been unwell has forced us to alter our times a little bit, sir. So I'm glad for many reasons that you're on the mend, but I definitely look forward to you, me, and Semigog furthering some of our plans.
Oh, by the way, I got to be thankful to Auron for getting me over the 10K hump. Thank you, sir. That was awesome.
Oh no, man, you did all the work on that one. But I'm glad I could give you the shout out. I appreciate it.
somebody told me in the last week there was some kind of I referenced one of your tweets, whatever, and they said, well, Steve Saylor disagreed with that. I was like, Steve Saylor doesn't have the followers that Auron has anymore.
Yeah, it's gotten pretty wild on Twitter. That's certainly one of the things that I am grateful for. I would not have predicted that, but yeah, the follower numbers have gotten pretty wild. So I'm glad I could help out, man, because you were one again. You were one of the people. When I first got on, I'm like, oh, this guy's saying interesting stuff, man. I hope I hope I can get him to follow me. That would be cool.
Yeah,
definitely nice.
Same thing with Distribuous is sort of I was addicted to his content.
Yeah, no, I mean, Dave is somebody everybody I think in our sphere at one point or another came up watching. So it's definitely another one of those touch points as well. But let me go ahead and clear out the super chats here real quick so we can get going. Let's see. The Moron Pill says to avoid opening theory, use the London system. It works the same way no matter what black plays. For black, the Scandinavian defense also reduces theory. I'm assuming that's all chess related. I don't have any idea, but even though American Ostrakhan had to leave, I'm sure I will pass that along to him and make sure he understands that. And I guess Bog, you can use that to avoid your worries about opening theory there.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a big deal.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, extremely grateful to all of you guys. It really has been a wild. I think I'm coming up on about 2 years here, a little under 2 years, but been doing this for not that long, and the response has been amazing, both on YouTube and Twitter and just everywhere. So extremely grateful for all of you who are following and sharing and supporting and everything. It's just been amazing. It's so great. It's humbling to have a community of people who come together, and so many of you are incredibly kind and thoughtful, and it's of course been amazing. Like I said, I just regularly get to interact with people who I always wanted to talk to, always wanted to meet. I can call many of them friends, and that's an incredible blessing. Lord has just been amazing to me in so many ways, from family to friends to micro internet success or whatever. But just it's an incredible opportunity, and I know we're all looking at difficulties with the world we live in and the things that are happening with the pandemic and everything. But I always hope that this is some kind of encouragement to you, because like Prudentialist said, at the end of the day, we're the ones who have to make a difference in our own lives and the lives of our families and our churches and those around us. And so I just always hope that that's an encouragement for you guys, because I know it's been very encouraging to me. One more super chat here. Zero Kev says thoughts on Twitter Spaces. It's funny when dirtbag leftists and third positions meet NRX and Mina Twitter. By the way, I've met many good old man fans on Spaces. Oh yeah, I'm sure you have. I've listened to a few Spaces. I haven't really involved myself in any of them. I think it's an interesting feature of Twitter, but to be honest, it seems like Spaces are being used to target some people who otherwise would not have gotten themselves in trouble on Twitter. I haven't necessarily avoided them for that reason, but that's something I have noticed. So just something to keep in mind when you're joining them. They do seem like they're a good time and an interesting thing. But just keep in mind that, the left can say things that we can't. And so just, if you care, if you don't care about Twitter, then by all means go nuts. But if you are trying to stay viable on that platform, just remember that it does seem like a thing that's drawing heat.
If you ever see Tommy Sotomayor in
That's right.
Twitter space,
Bail
get
out.
in on that.
Get in or get out. What are you, depending on how
that guy is awesome at the Twitter spaces.
Definitely listen for sure. But yeah, absolutely. They are definitely making for some very interesting moments in Twitter. Can't deny that. All right, guys. Well, thanks again for watching. Thanks to everybody who showed up as guests. Again, make sure you check out the Prudentialist. Make sure you check out Bog and Merrick at the Good Old Boys Furious. Like I said, I have links to everybody but Bog in the description below there. But obviously, you should already be listening to the Good Old Boys. There's just no excuse not to do that. So make sure you're checking all these people out. And thanks to everybody who stopped by. Everybody who supported with super chats. I really appreciate it, guys. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas, and I hope you have a happy new year. Thanks so much. And as always, I'll talk to you next time.